On page 19 of section 8-2, we talk about the converse of the Pythagorean theorem. So in this case, if the sum of the squares of the lengths of the two shorter sides of a triangle equals the square of the lengths of the longest side, then the triangle is a right triangle. Okay, one thing that we have to keep in mind with this is that the only way for several numbers to come together to form a triangle would be to make sure that, for example, the a squared plus the b squared, before you square them, they have to be greater than what your c would be. So in this case, 40 plus 30 is 70, so 70 is greater than 50 before we square it. So that would indicate that this would form a triangle. If there is ever a case where, for example, 6 plus 12 equals 18, 18 equals 18, that would not be able to form a triangle. Okay, so when we look at this, we have several rules that we have to go by. If a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then the triangle would be classified as a right triangle. If when we do the calculations in the math, a squared plus b squared is greater than c squared, then the triangle is an acute triangle. If a squared plus b squared is less than c squared, then ABC, or the triangle, is an obtuse triangle. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and try number 1. Okay, we're going to take 30 squared plus 40 squared. We don't know yet if it's going to be equal, less than, or greater than, so we're going to leave a blank there, is whatever to 50 squared. So we're going to type this in. 30 squared gives you 900. 40 squared gives you 1600. When you add those up, 900 plus 1600, that gives you 2500. Okay, and then we'll do 50 squared. That gives you 2500. So in this case, we know they're all equal. So therefore, we knew from the beginning, since 30 plus 40 was 70, and that was bigger than the 50, that it would be measurements for the sides of a triangle. And in this case, it is a right triangle, since a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So that's my answer there. Okay, number 2, 20 plus 30 is 50, so that is greater than 40. So yes, it is going to be a triangle. We have to figure out what type of triangle it's going to be. So we set all of these to squared. 20 squared gives me 400. 30 squared gives me 900. Okay, I'm going to add those up. It gives me 1300. 40 squared gives me 1600. Now notice here that they're no longer equal to each other. The a squared plus b squared is less than the c squared here. So 1300 is less than 1600. Therefore, we have a yes, it can form a triangle, but it is an obtuse angle. An obtuse triangle. Sorry about that. And if you're wondering where I'm getting that from, again, look up back here. If a squared plus b squared is less than c squared, then the triangle is an obtuse triangle. Okay. Number 3, 18 plus 24 gives me 42. 42. So 42 is bigger than 30. So we know that can form a triangle. Okay. We're going to set these squared to each other. (18 squared and 24 squared). So 324 and 576. When you add those up, you get 900. 30 squared gives you 900. So these are all equal to each other, which means, yes, it can form a triangle, and it is a right angle. Right triangle. Sorry about that. Okay. 8 plus 6 gives you 14, so that's bigger. Set the squares. 6 squared gives you 36. 8 squared gives you 64. Gives you 81 there. Okay, add the 36 and the 84. Gives you 120. So 120 is greater than 81. Okay, since it is greater, did I add that right? 36 plus 84 gives you 120. Okay, so since 120 is greater than 81, then we can say that this will form a triangle, but it is an acute triangle. I reviewed this earlier. 6 plus 12 is 18, therefore this cannot form a triangle, so we're not even going to work out the sides. The two sides are not greater than the other side when added together. Okay. Number 6, 10 plus 15 gives me 35. That's bigger than 20. So we'll take 10 squared plus 15 squared, 20 squared. 10 squared should give me 100. 15 squared should give me 225. So take 100 plus 225. When you add those two together, that gives you 325. 20 squared gives me 400. Okay. So in this case, 325 is less than 400. Okay. So we have an obtuse triangle. Number 7. When you put these in the calculator, those two will add up to be bigger than that. So we're going to go ahead and set it up. Square root of 5 squared plus the square root of 12 squared, square root of 13 squared. And again, when you do this, the square of a square root, it just becomes that number. 5 plus 12 is 13. Okay. So 5 plus 12 gives you 17. 17 is greater than 13. Therefore, yes, but it is an acute triangle. Okay. 2 squared plus the square root of 8 squared, and the square root of 12 squared. Okay. 2 squared is 4 plus 8, 12. 8 plus 4 gives you 12 equal to 12. Therefore, you have a yes and a right triangle. Number 9. You have 9 squared plus 40 squared, 41 squared. 9 squared gives you 81, plus 40 squared gives you 1600. 41 squared gives you 1681. Obviously, 1681 is equal to 1681. Therefore, you have yes, and it is a right triangle.